Good morning everybody, it's Philippa from British History Tours. Today I'm at Kenilworth Castle in Warwickshire, and Kenilworth Castle for me is the bricks and mortar behind the greatest love story of Elizabeth I. Now we think of Elizabeth I by her titles, the Virgin Queen, Gloriana, but these titles were given to her sort of after. They were a bit of a summary really of her reign. There was no inevitability about her not marrying, and like I say, for me Kenilworth is the bricks and mortar behind the greatest of her love stories. As queen, she couldn't just marry anybody she liked. England was still in a very precarious situation. It hadn't been long since the break with Rome. You had Mary I, who preceded Elizabeth, who was Catholic, who wanted to return the country to Catholicism, and then you had Elizabeth, who took over from her, who was Protestant. And every Catholic European country could be a threat to England, because they would want to bring England back under the Catholic umbrella and under the Pope. So Elizabeth was in a fairly precarious position, and her marriage, any suitors, really needed to be foreign princes, somebody who an alliance could be formed with for the defence of England and the future of the kingdom as an independent country. But in my mind, through all the research I've done about Elizabeth, her actual true love was a man called Robert Dudley. Kenilworth Castle was owned by Robert Dudley, and the apartments behind me, they're now called the Leicester Buildings, but these apartments were built especially for Elizabeth for her visits here to Kenilworth, which is why I say that Kenilworth for me is the bricks and mortar behind Elizabeth's greatest love story. Elizabeth visited Kenilworth on 4 occasions, 2 times in the 1560s, and then she came back in 1572 and 1575. In between the first 2 and the second 2 visits, Robert Dudley had built her these apartments behind her, these state apartments, purely for her use. He'd also, I don't know if it's by 1572, but certainly by 1575, created the Elizabethan Gardens, which are here, which are absolutely stunning. And if you do get to come to Kenilworth, make sure you make time to go around the gardens. So yeah, Elizabeth and Robert had known each other since childhood, and they were at least best friends, but in my mind, probably childhood sweethearts. And the clincher for me was the evidence behind, or the evidence I think behind her true feelings for him, is his last letter. Robert Dudley died, I think it was in the 1580s. Elizabeth didn't die till 1603, so he died quite a few years before her. And he'd written to her a week before he died. And despite him being one of many suitors for Elizabeth, he held a special place in her heart, and that last letter that he wrote, she kept. Not only did she keep it, but she labelled it just his last letter. Not Robert's last letter, not Leicester's last letter, just his last letter, which I think speaks volumes about her feelings for the man. Not only did she keep the letter, not only did she just title it his last letter, but she kept it by his bed for the rest of her life. So for me, Kenilworth represents that bond that those two had in bricks and mortar, because these were the apartments that Robert Dudley built for her, especially for when she visited. So like I say, she visited after these had been built. She visited again twice, 1572 and 1575. The fact that she'd visited here on 4 occasions is pretty significant. I'm not sure if there are other places around the country quite so far away from London which she would have visited on quite as many occasions. But it was definitely the site of her longest ever visit. In 1575, she spent 19 days here. That's the longest she ever spent at any courtier's house at all. And it was Robert's last-ditch attempt to persuade Elizabeth to marry him. There were many reasons why she couldn't or wouldn't marry Robert. As I've already said, he wasn't a foreign prince, and we needed Elizabeth Council wanted her to marry a foreign prince for an alliance. He wasn't really of great enough stature. He was the second son of the Earl of Warwick. His father had been executed. His elder brother was the Earl of Warwick. Although Robert became the Earl of Leicester under Elizabeth, that wasn't a title he was born to. And the third reason is that he had been implicated in the strange death of his second wife, Amy, who had been ill. She had been quite ill, but the story goes that she had sent her entire household out to a country fair, and when they returned, she was found at the bottom of the stairs and her neck was broken. So whether that was from a fall, whether she committed suicide, or whether it had been murder, it had left Robert free to marry, but obviously in very dark circumstances, and the rumours spread and the Queen couldn't be implicated in that. And for me, that was the nail in the coffin. Although it was fairly unlikely she was ever going to be able to marry him, that was the nail in that deal. It wasn't going to happen after that point. So I hope you've enjoyed that little snippet of Kenilworth Castle and Elizabeth's love story with Robert Dudley. If you want to know any more, there are my travel guides on the Facebook page. I have Elizabeth's one on there. It's called Prisoner to Queen, and it goes through her journey to becoming Queen, which was perilous and probably fairly unlikely in contemporary minds that she would ever become Queen, and possibly in her own mind. And it goes through all the different events on the run up to her becoming Queen. I'm going to write one about Elizabeth love and family as well, which will include Kenilworth, so look out for that. In the meantime, I will leave you to your day and hope you have a fantastic bank holiday. Kenilworth is open all of bank holiday. They have a pageant on, I believe, on Sunday and Monday. And they've got events. It's half term next week here, and they've got events all through half term as well. So it's a really good place to visit. It's run by English Heritage, so if you're an English Heritage member, it's free. I'm not sure the price if it's not, but it won't be. It's nothing huge. So have a great day, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.